Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Elephants in Our Rooms. I'm your host, Janet Lessin, and here comes Debra DeFranco, our co-host. And once again, we have an exciting episode. We're going to talk about everything that's going on in the world, like COVID-19. Oh, hold on, I lost my thing. Anyway, I don't have my show page. But here it is. 1 second. I can tell you about our show that we created today. Okay, there we go. We're going to talk about, guess what? COVID-19, the elections for 2020. Surprise, surprise. Donald Trump. Let's see. This new suicide emergency hotline. We have an article on ancient anthropology, money laundering, and immigration, and other things. I've got all the latest daily cause recommended, but we're going to pass this talking stick that we always use over to Debra DeFranco, because she's an amazing researcher, and she's been sending me articles. I don't know, like no sooner do we end the show and she starts sending me articles for the next week. So I just love you, Deborah. You're amazing.
Well, thank
amazing
you.
goddess, yes. So, tell us, try to get this on the screen up, about all these incredible things that are going on. So you have some good news. Should we start with the good news, or should we do the bad stuff first?
Well, the good news is some of the discoveries that they have found with COVID-19 in the last few weeks, right? One of the things that they discovered was that what's called, when you are exposed to the virus and you start to become symptomatic, you have what's called a spike attack. There's a spike protein.
Which article is that from?
That is, I'm looking at my Aquarian radio. Yeah. Okay. Look at, scientists say they found a game changer in the fight against COVID-19.
Okay.
That was one I sent yesterday, right?
Yes.
Now that
I didn't get to read these. My internet was not working, so I'm behind on my research.
So on those images,
okay, so it's a spike. You said it's a spike effect or something.
It's called a spike protein, is what the scientists call it, right? And within this, and what happens is you get what's called a cytokine attack. They call it a spike attack, right? It's that protein, and that attack determines how severe your reaction to the exposure of the virus is going to be. And what they discovered is that there's a little pocket inside the protein. They've, had this thing under microscopes, trying to research it, and they found a pocket within the protein where they can actually put drugs that could fight it or kill it.
Ooh.
Yes.
But they have to invent the drugs.
Yes. Well, I think there's drugs out there. There's a lot of existing drugs. There's actually a team of doctors. No, there's that company I told you about in China that's working on taking existing drugs and using them in new ways, right? For cancer, for viral diseases, things like that, right? There's lots of drugs out there, and there's lots of old drugs out there that people aren't using or kind of have been pushed on the back burner that could actually be used for other things, right? For other types of diseases or illnesses. And it's taking, the existing tools we have in our toolkit and seeing if we can find novel uses for it, right, in today's diseases and viruses. So there's a lot of drugs that they think could attack or kill the viral attack in your body. The problem is getting to the virus itself, right? the virus puts up a lot of defenses, right? It puts up a lot of natural defenses so that you can't attack it or kill it. Like there's articles that were coming out today talking about how the virus is mutating because of us wearing face masks and social distancing. And it's a possibility it may mutate to the point where those things may no longer be effective. So viruses
and
are
aren't
smart.
These viruses
right?
always mutating?
Yes.
They want to survive. So just
provide exactly. Absolutely. That's what they do, right? They're smart. They know how to change to get past the defenses that the host puts up, right, to keep it at bay.
Right.
Well, what I wonder is,
does this? What I wonder, and you probably don't have the answer, but I'm just putting it out there. Why just humans? Why doesn't this virus wipe out all dogs and cats and pigs and birds and?
It's affecting
this one
animals.
Seems to be.
No, it's affecting animals. That's the dirty little secret about this that they don't want to admit. There's animals getting this and dying from it.
Okay.
Dogs and cats are susceptible to this virus, and they're getting it and dying from it. Which also means they can spread it to other humans.
Right.
Right?
So
another
we might all
thing
be gone.
that makes don't say that. They think another good thing that may come out of this is the cure for the common cold.
That would be interesting. Yeah, there's some things that have been around a long time, like herpes and AIDS and smallpox. Yeah, there was somebody saying, well, we don't get side effects or long-term diseases, but smallpox can mutate into shingles when we get old. And herpes always, chickenpox. Okay, sorry, chickenpox. You get that when you're a kid, not smallpox. But smallpox was another plague from another time, and they found that by giving you a vaccination to that would make you immune forever. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've watched. What's that?
Yes.
The time traveling show. About the lady Outlander. Yeah. So she got inoculated. If she caught it or got inoculated against smallpox. And now she can go back in time and treat people. Anyway, so this is nothing new. We've had these plagues and viruses and things around since the dawn of humanity. So we just have to figure out how can we survive this. And I don't think that anybody's responsible. That's kind of cruel. We'll just get rid of all the brown and black and old people. It's okay. It's their time anyway. Yeah, that's horrible.
They think there's a possibility of a viral connection to some cancers, right?
I would think they would have found a cure for cancer. So that's another thing. We have cancer. And so I was talking to someone today, and it's like, well, everything that's monetized doesn't get cured because they can create something, a drug or a treatment, and so they're not going to cure it as long as they're making money. So we need to follow the dollars, follow who's getting rich off of this one. And, of course, everybody looks at, power elite and the pharmaceutical companies. So they're too invested in having a flow of income from a disease-filled population. There's no incentive to cure. And, in fact, aging is a disease. It's not natural for us to age. There are species like lobsters and that live extremely. They're supposed to be immortal. They might.
Well,
I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I've just heard these things.
Aging is caused by the shortening of the telomeres inside your body. And, they're long when you're young, and they become shorter when you're old. And they know aging is connected to the telomeres. They just don't know how to stop the process of how I believe they're going to discover the cure for aging within the next 50 years.
Well, the cures have already been discovered. They won't be unleashed. You know, we have the conspiracy theories and people that come forth, and you know, there's stories that come around all the time. So and so had a cure for cancer, and now he's behind bars, or now they're dead. So, you know, it just goes back to somebody does not want these cures to be released. They get discovered, but are we going to ever get them released? So that's what we have to do, that kind of work on as a species. Like, how do we get the power elite to stop being so sociopathic?
Well, I want to ask you a question about that. So
yes.
I have heard, I don't know if this is true, and I've even found it in some of my research, but I haven't quite validated it yet, that there's experts in the herbal medicinal field that have been dying at an extraordinary rate in accidents, and so the rumor is they're being killed by the elites in the pharmaceutical industry. Have you heard anything about that?
Of course, yes. We've had that happening for the last, 20 or 30 years. That the scientists and the people that come up with the cures for the planet, so they have green, clean energy systems, they get knocked off. People have cures for diseases, they get knocked off. And some of this goes into the conspiracy, which we like to do sometimes. Some of them are taken off the planet. And so on and so forth. But I was reading, I'm trying to find it now. God, I wish I was better prepared. I got an article this morning, and I'll go look for it, about
the psychopaths?
Psychopaths, and and
I read it.
How they can identify, I sent it to you, how they can identify, there's a test for psychopaths, and so they can identify them. And we could eliminate them. You can't qualify to run for office if you're a sociopath, psychopath, or whatever the test is. Remember that?
You shouldn't be allowed to hold any position of power if you're that, be it in a company or a political office.
So that's what happened with Trump, and that's what happened with Hitler. So these people were allowed to take over the planet and, destroy the planet. And the planet almost was destroyed under Hitler, and it came back, and now we have it again. And this person, the reason why we have all these and then the fires. Somebody sent me an article. I haven't had time to research it, but the fires, they're showing beings coming down from space. This is like space wars. This is World War III. The coronavirus being permitted, it's been developed and spread because of this propaganda. Oh, you don't need to wear a mask. Oh, go out. And it's still being said. You can listen to a Trump speech, and he'll say, and go back to school, and get out there and go to the beaches and go shopping. He's always promoting going out there and don't wear your mask. Why? Why would a sociopath?
Because he needs the economy to come back before the election. He only cares about himself.
Shooting yourself in the foot, because the economy is destroyed because of this inability to shop.
That's what makes no sense. If you institute a national plan to tackle this, the economy would come back. But you know what? This is my theory. They're lazy. They're lazy.
Just
These
laziness?
are people that don't. It's laziness. It takes a lot of work to pull that off.
I think it's intentional. Here's my theory.
No.
Because I watched Active Measures, and I watched the family about the breakfast prayer. I think that Putin and Trump, it's like they're taking over this country, because Putin got pissed as the USSR down to Russia and independent countries, and so this is revenge, and everything can fall apart. It's like they're gambling. If things fall apart, Putin's welcoming Trump to live out his days there in luxury. So, he's the richest man on earth, so to speak. Putin is, apparently. He's the richest man on earth. But if he succeeds, the United States is is down into 6 or 7 countries. We have Civil War II, and they take over. This is World War III right now going on. They take over without a shot. They just move right in, take over all the resources. They don't destroy the infrastructure. Although some of it will get destroyed because of the, right now everybody's pissed off because of the Breonna Taylor thing. So now we get more riots. And so, but that's just part of the plan. You get the population to act out the things that you need to have happen so you can declare martial law and take over. We're about to go down in martial law. Trump is not going to step down. I don't know who can enforce it. It's just like the same situation with Hitler. They're the same dynamic. So he's clearly stating he's not stepping down. I just got a YouTube. Trump booed as he pays respect to Ginsburg.
Yes.
Okay, they're booing him. That's
They were
interesting.
chanting "Vote him." They were chanting "Vote him out" when he was standing outside of the Supreme Court.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's
they started
interesting.
booing.
That's the first I've seen that.
They started booing him when him and Melania came out after viewing Justice Ginsburg. The crowd started booing him, and then they started chanting "Vote him out."
Mm. Well, hopefully, we've got what? I don't have the countdown. I have to put a countdown on my computer. The countdown to the election. Just like 40-some days, or I don't know, something. You get that on the
40
nightly
days,
news,
I
they
think.
say. Is it 40 days? Yeah. Yeah, so
Either that,
democracy
40,
now.
45 days.
Justice for Breonna Taylor. So we have 45 days for 45. Woo! That's interesting. Well, hopefully this, he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave. He's not going to step down. He challenges everything.
I got news for you. This is a country.
Let me see the news.
Americans are unpredictable. Americans are not predictable. We're not passive like a lot of citizenry in other countries. And if Trump doesn't step down, it'll start a civil war in this country, for sure. People won't put up with him not stepping down.
Play right into his hands. Putin wants a civil war, and then we're going to end up with 6 different countries, 5 different countries. It'll be the West Coast, right? Hawaii will be part of this. I've seen the map. I've seen the map. Here's the United
where they
States
divide us
after the
up
Civil
into
War.
5 separate countries.
Yeah, I've seen the map. Yeah.
Well,
so
you have a lot more people that hate him than that like him. So.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They get what they want. Divided country. So what do we do? I don't know. It's like we can't play into the game that we are. It's like he's playing. It's like he's. Those movies of the gods on Olympus, and they're playing the humans like characters on a chessboard. That's what it's like. He's playing us, and we're just doing it. It's just so easy to manipulate and orchestrate humanity to play these stupid games the way. That's why I don't think he's worried at all. He's probably got some kind of protection against.
Oh, they're worried.
Disease.
That's not true. They're worried. They're very worried.
Trump is worried?
Yeah. Trump and his inner circle are worried. Don't think they're not. This election is not in the bag for him.
Well,
they're
that's
worried.
why he plans every direction. If I don't win, it's always like a flow chart, if else then. So if I win, I just stay in office. If I don't
now they've
win,
got contingency plans to throw out the votes in a state and let the Republicans in the Republican-controlled states, they've got contingency plans to throw out the popular vote and direct the electoral vote any way they want. That's their plan to steal the election if all else fails.
Oh, I see.
Right. First it was going to be the post office, but they got caught doing all that dirty stuff. And now judges have ruled against them and forced them to stop the games. So now the next thing is they're going to try and bypass the vote and toss out the vote in Republican states where Biden wins the popular vote and tell the electors, appoint the electors that they want and tell them how to vote how they want. They've got lots of tricks up their sleeve to try and steal the election.
And this is a real problem. How are we ever going to have elections? How are we ever going to have honest elections ever again? Now that all these strategies are up on the table, how you can steal an election, how can you honestly have an election ever again?
The House of Representatives passed a bill today of a bunch of different rules to prevent all the games of what the Trump administration has been doing since it's been in office.
Okay, I'll have to get that.
If you
trying to find that article. Is that an article?
It's not an article I sent you. It's just an article that came out in the last few hours. So I'm not sure how much of the details about it is out there. But yes, the Pelosi was able to get this bill passed in the House that will stop a lot of these shenanigans in future elections.
But don't the bills have to go past the Senate, and that's where they get buried?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing with what the House is doing right now is they're passing bills that they know the Senate will not pass. It's just like when they passed the stimulus back in May, they knew the Senate wasn't going to pass it, but it's more for optics. They're taking the position that we did this, right? So they passed this bill today with all these things to improve the fairness and get rid of all the shenanigans, and they can say, look, we're trying to make this better so y'all can't cheat anymore. What are the Republicans going to say? No, we're not going to deal with that, which means you're condoning the cheating, right? So the optics of it look bad. But then if the Democrats get control of the Senate, which is a high possibility, even if Trump wins the election, and I suspect that's what may happen. If Trump wins the election, they're going to lose. They're going to lose the Senate. I'm almost positive they're going to lose the Senate.
But if he declares all the ballots invalid, then all the ballots
he can't declare that. The ballots are managed at a state level, not a federal level. He can't declare any of the ballots invalid.
Well, that's what he's trying to do, saying the entire election is invalid.
He can't do that. He doesn't have that kind of power. He doesn't have that kind of power. He does not have the power to invalidate the election.
He's going to invalidate the ballots. He's going to invalidate the election. He's saying that all those people that are mailing in are invalid. So I guess what I'm going to do, I have to make a decision, is just get out there and vote. I'll wear my spacesuit, run in there and vote, and just run out. I mean, I think my election place has never been swamped. You know, it's always been sparse. I've never had to wait in line where I go to vote. So I think
you're going to have to wait in line this year. You're going to see a very high turnout because of how much people do not like him. They want him gone. He is not liked by a majority of the population. He is liked by a minority. And the minority in this country doesn't get to rule.
Right.
And again, a lot of the reasons why Trump won was because of how the Russians micro-targeted particular segments of the population in key voting districts, and all those accounts have been removed by Twitter and Facebook. So the Russians don't have the power that they did in the 2016 election to interfere like they did before.
Have you watched, like, The Good Wife and The Good Fight and how they actually do interfere? And it's not like it's all hackers and stuff. So I can post
it's micro-targeting.
It's
micro-targeting because of the data that Facebook collects on you. They can micro-target
so they'll go in
down
and
to just a few
I'll
people.
post something. I will post something in support of Democrats and Biden. And I'll go back, and there'll be, 100 posts against me. Now, there aren't 100 people against me. These are bots, and they're fake. They're fake IDs, and the bots and these hackers just go into, and they pack it with all of their responses. So then the people that tune into a Twitter response that I have, they'll say, "Oh, well, Trump must be really popular." And they start paying attention. And it's always so negative against everything we say. It's name calling. It's a demonization process. It's just all negative against. They'll say Democrat socialist, Democrat communist socialist, and so they anchor the words together. They tie them together. You think if somebody's a socialist, they're a communist, and if someone's a Democrat, they're a socialist or they're a communist or both. They keep anchoring the words together so that we get invalidating demonization process. It's got nothing to do with truth or reality, because as we did on other shows, there's lots of social programs that are normal. But anyway, wow. Okay, I've got to get back to. I'm looking at. I got sidetracked. I'm looking for the new law that was it today or yesterday? Oh, come on, no call me. A lot of people, they know I do a show and they call me. It's like Murphy's Law. Yeah, I'm shutting them off. Okay. I can't find the new law she passed today. Was that yesterday? Pelosi?
No, it was today.
No.
I think it was today that it happened.
Today is the.
Yeah, but I didn't send you an article.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for a YouTube even. Here's one. Her weekly house holds weekly news briefing. Anyway, Pelosi Dems to discuss major reform packages. That must be it. Oh, and that's on Fox, so that's going to be huge. I don't see it. Anyway, when we get off the show, you'll have to send it to me because I'm really curious to follow up on that. I'm not getting the news. Why not? I'm getting the real news. Yeah, where's the real news? Okay, I'm going to go back to the website and see the. Oh, shoot. If I get knocked off, I'll call right back in. I have to switch.
Okay. You got knocked off
talking.
while you were talking a few minutes ago.
Oh, I did. Oh, that's because the phone,
yeah.
the call came in. So, and everybody knows I'm broadcasting right now, but they still call me. Okay. Let's see. Are we still live? Can you still hear me? I might have to call back in.
I can hear you.
Good. Okay. Oh, because I'm on my phone. Okay, so I'm trying to get into the website because I have all that stuff listed there about, it's just not working. So you'll have to read the website. Normally I read on my website with everything I put up there. My internet's not working, guys. This is crazy. Okay, I should be able to get in my website. But see what you can see about. There must be 20 articles there, and I haven't even gone through the titles of the Daily Cause, KOS. I like the Daily Cause. They have some really good articles. There was one about Trump being a sociopath. Like he said, we are all psychologists, and I didn't get to read it. We know that Trump is a sociopath, psychopath. Well, some of them, his actions are resulting in people dying, so that's a psychopath. The psychopath involves people dying, so yeah, he's a psychopath. And I don't think, people say he's a buffoon and he's inept. No, this is intentional because intentions are made manifest by your results. But that's because there was another thing I saw where they just basically said, it was a YouTube, and Trump said to his mostly white audience, we all have
I don't think
lovely genes. Don't we have lovely genes, he said. Look at this group.
Of course.
They have wonderful genes. It's like
talking about white people, right?
His audience was all white, and he's saying, we have the best genes. Aren't you guys lucky you have the best genes? It's all about the genes, isn't it? That's what he said. I had my computer working. I would have captured that more.
The website doesn't show you. Can you hear me? Okay, the website doesn't show any updates after September 17th.
Okay, let me go look. See, this is what's been the problem. I'm being hacked.
Yeah, it does for the broadcast. Yeah, Elephants in Our Room doesn't show an update after 9/17. 9/17/20 is the last update.
Okay, well, I made one today. Let's see if I can get it back to show again. I'll see if it'll show for the back end, and I'll post it again. Oh my God, we're under attack. I've got one here. Let me repost it. I'll publish it. It doesn't have a picture yet. I'll put a picture so it shows. Okay. Anyway, I think I'm going to get on it in just a minute here. So off the top of your head, or looking at your email, what you sent to me, what other articles did you find?
Well, we have the footprints, the human footprints that were 120,000 years old, that were found in a place that they shouldn't have been. So they were found in a place in Saudi Arabia. And they found human footprints that were 120,000 years old, right? And according to the biblical timeline, we've only been here, 6,000 years, which we know is bull.
Oh, yeah, we've just been here 6,000 years. Right.
Do you know about the human footprints that they found in the rock strata in Grand Prairie, Texas? Or Grand Rose, Texas? I could have that wrong. But so there is a place in Texas where there is rock strata, where there's actually different levels of rock, right, that date back millions of years old that have been exposed by this river. And in this one part of the strata, in this one layer, that's dated to be, I want to say, 1.2 million years old, there are human footprints walking right next to dinosaur footprints.
I've heard about that one. Yes.
Yeah. And they've actually, it's become a tourist site. It's become a tourist site. You can go see it.
You can see it. Michael Cuomo dug into the side of a mountain, right? And when he went down, they could easily come in from the side. They went down the layers, and he found humanoid remains in the billions of years level. You know, the millions of years.
Really?
Billions of years. And they were gigantic. So there were once giants that walked on the land. So apparently some environmental changes, I guess, made the planet more dense, and so creatures got shorter. Maybe that's why we can have larger creatures of some kind of density. Anyway, that was the theory, that the more dense, the shorter the creatures, because they can't handle the height. You know, you have a person that gets one of those diseases where they grow to a giant, right, and their structure can't hold it with the gravity, and so they die young. I'm still trying to get this to come up. This place is not coming up.
Well, I have my email up, so I have most of it saved.
So you have that
we can text. So, you know, there's one story I want to tell you. I think I told you this. I'm not sure. Maybe I said it on the Cosmo show. I went to New Mexico last summer, and I don't know if you've ever been there, but anywhere in New Mexico, if you go rock hunting, you find the most amazing relics, right? And the last time I was there, I found a lot of ancient stone tools that you could tell had been touched by human hands that were thousands of years old. And I was visiting a friend, and her and her husband used to go on hikes, looking for rocks. And she had the most amazing relics, ancient hand tools and fossils and things like that. And she had this one rock, and she shows it to me, and it's actually upside down, but she doesn't know it. And she goes, I think this was an ancient fish hook. And I looked at it, and I turned it around upside down, and I said, this isn't an ancient fish hook. I said, look at it. I said, it's a dinosaur head. And it's that dinosaur, the one that has the very long neck, right, that eats, it's an herbivore. It eats the leaves at the top of the trees. I don't remember the name of it. It was a carved dinosaur head that a human had obviously carved.
Oh, my God.
And you could, yes, it was the head and the neck. And you could see where it had broken off from the body. And when I showed her the eyes and the nose and stuff and the mouth, like her jaw fell on the ground because she never looked at it like that, right? She just made an assumption on the shape without really studying the stone. But it was something that was amazing. She had this one rock that was petrified dinosaur skin. So you could see the thick skin, and then you could see the layers of tissue and muscle and fat that had petrified. And
there's a
I have
YouTube channel that said that all these mountains were once alive, and like the devil's, what is that mountain they had in Close Encounters? I forget the name of it. That was a big giant tree. So this guy, he's a scientist, and he goes around and he says that your granite countertop, if you look at it, that's all tissue and blood and bone, and these are petrified, or these are creatures. Our soil is alive, full of beings that once were alive. But he would show these mountainsides. You go, look, that's a face. And sometimes they would be, lying down, and sometimes they'd be sitting up. Oh, man, I just cannot get into anything today. Alrighty. So, let me try something else to get into my email. That's a good idea, try the email. Because I had some good things to talk about. Oh, did we? Okay, so let's go back to the ancient stuff. So we're finding things in deeper layers that shouldn't be there, like anomalies, like footsteps alongside the dinosaurs. This gets repressed. Apparently, there's in the Smithsonian and all the different museums way down in the basement, they have giants, 8, 9, 10, 12 feet tall skeletons of giants, and they have red hair. So who were these giants that walked among us? Sometimes they just destroy them. But back in the 1800s, you might see in some old newspaper clippings, they'll have a leg bone that's as tall as a person, one, tibia and stuff like that. So they're not telling us the truth. We're not getting the truth about what's really going on.
Well, that scientist who worked for the Smithsonian was traveling in the Grand Canyon, and he found a cave that had Egyptian artifacts in it. It had Egyptian hieroglyphs and artifacts.
And there's supposed to be pyramids everywhere. So they have pyramids in China and Bosnia and Romania, and so
they're all over the world. The pyramids are all over the world.
In the Grand Canyon, pyramids of the Grand Canyon. And so I invite you, listeners, when you drive, if you ever get to drive again, out there driving from state to state. Often I would go visit people, and I don't really drive on the mainland much, but I get to sit in the passenger seat or the back seat, and I just look out the window. And just driving down, there's like all these mountains that look like pyramids. And it's like, wait, that's not a natural form. and I'll point that out and go, look, that looks like a pyramid. It's in amongst the mountains there. What? Has anybody walked up to that? So I think they're just all over the place, especially out there in that. Did you ever drive to Sedona?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I drive
God,
to Arizona and New Mexico
beautiful.
all the time. There's megalithic
so
sites all over there. I have actually took pictures on my last trip last summer of a megalithic site. You're driving along the freeway, and there's nothing, right, but just desert, sand, and rocks, the typical sand and rocks you see. And all of a sudden, there's this one spot that's maybe a few hundred yards long. There's all these megalithic rocks that have these strange carve-outs and things. And you can tell something happened there. I actually took photographs of it. And I got off the freeway, and there's an exit right there where it happened. And I got off the freeway and took pictures. And you could see where there's been segments of the rock completely carved out right in the middle of the rock. Like, this wasn't a natural formation. You could tell this had been touched by something or someone.
And wow, what do you think happened? Like a battle, or
This, it's very weird. Like, the rocks were very smooth and rounded. Almost they look similar to the megalithic sites where they say the rocks have been melted, right, or softened, and then worked. These rocks kind of look like that. They didn't look like the rest of the natural rocks in the surrounding area, right? They looked very polished, had very smooth surfaces, had strange grooves and carvings in them. I look at the pictures every few months and look at it and try to figure out what it is. And next time I go there, I'm going to take more detailed photographs. Something happened there. I'm not sure what. But it's something out of the ordinary in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and so that's what, that's like that mountain for close encounters. It's like, this looks like a giant ancient tree that's been cut down in the middle of nowhere. And there's several locations like that. So what happened? We don't have the true story here. It would be so nice if someday we had the true history of this earth and what was going on. And there's civilizations that were underneath, layers of strata that existed before. But everything gets filtered down and censored and put into the Judeo-Christian, even Muslim artificial history. It's the only explanation that's acceptable. It has to be in with this current religious belief structure. So I'm not sure how we're going to get past that. Sure.
I have a question for you along those lines. Did you ever hear the story about what happened during the Iraq War, during the invasion of Iraq?
Yes, they went into that museum and they took everything.
Yeah, and and it was soldiers. It was American soldiers that went in and took it.
Right. Well, we had the same things happen back in the Crusades. The Knights Templars would go into these sacred sites and they would just take them. And a lot of them made their way back to the UK. And I, at one point, was talking to a rich woman. She said that all of her fellow royals had down in underneath the earth, they had a series of caves and tunnels, and a lot of the artifacts were held there, like supposedly like the Ark of the Covenant, those type of things. And
right.
So she was explaining this to me that they're not gone. We took them. Not just the riches and the jewels, but the artifacts that they didn't want out there in the world to explain what was really happening. So they took them. So I think that's why they invaded the museum. It's just a false story in order to get in there. So they took a lot of this. So one time I happened upon this YouTube where a guy got in under, I think it was in San Francisco. It might be under the Getty Museum. There's rumors that there's all these tunnels underneath California. And so this guy, it was really very interesting. I'm going in here and he somehow had a camera which he was able to defy detection, and he was walking through these tunnels. And it gets to a place where they have these display cases, and they have all these artifacts, you know, you can, just like in a museum. And so you can walk up to them, and they've got all these different ET carvings of all these different species. You only see it for a moment, but you see it long enough to go, wait, those are things that you don't find out in the regular museum. And then along the wall they had some creatures or something, like they were being preserved. So it was almost like a zoo along the wall with different creatures. And then suddenly this guy, he hits an area, and it's like he gets teleported really fast. And you see like this kind of zoo, and the next he's walking again, and this humanoid ET looks nothing like a human being, walks up and says, "You're going the wrong way. You must go that way." And she directs him. But he keeps walking. He says, "I only have 24 hours to get through there, and I don't want to get detected." So he doesn't stop and talk to anybody. He just keeps moving. And I don't know if I can ever find it again. It was so fascinating because it reminded me of when I would travel astrally. I would encounter these things. But there are a lot of these artifacts that are hidden, I guess, in these caves, like under the Getty Museum. And then you have people like Emery Smith that says, "I worked in a lab, and they gave me all the samples from the ETs." And so he was analyzing their blood and their bone and, you know, their tissues and everything. So makes you wonder. I can't prove a damn thing, but there's a lot of things on that line. So yeah, they took it. Where did they take it? Did they bring it back to the Americas? Did they have it? But they wanted control of that, so they went into that museum, and if they can control history, people who control the science and the information and the artifacts, they control history. So we really should have a reality where we know that there are, you know, these giants, and here they are, and the giants should be on display in the museums. Here's these 8, 10, 12 big tall giants, and they had bright red hair. Who are they? You know, we could do the DNA analysis. And so Zechariah Sitchin, there was one called Bao. Was it Bao? B-A-U, Bao. And she was one of the children of Anu, and she stayed behind when Sodom and Gomorrah blasted, and she didn't get to safety. So when the radiation blew over, it killed her too, because they're humanoid; they can be killed. And so she wasn't. They weren't able to revive her. So apparently, she's in the basement of the London Museum. So Lloyd Pye flew over there and got an appointment. And Zechariah wanted to pay for a DNA analysis. And apparently it was going to cost, $1 million or $2 million, something like that. But he'd paid for that, and that was his dying wish, was to get her DNA sequence and find out if she really was the daughter of Anu, which would be a pure Anunnaki. She wasn't a hybrid; she was pure. And,
wow!
And then he came back, and he was dead 3 months later. He caught a very fast-acting cancer, and he wrote to us, some of his other friends. He said, "I'm trying to fix it, but I don't think I can." And he was gone in 3 months. So I don't know. I think there's something going on here. We don't want others.
Have you ever heard of Queen? I think it's Queen Kuani, I think is her name.
Is she Hawaiian?
No, she is. Her remains are in a museum, I think in Europe or the Middle East somewhere.
How are you spelling
She has Puani. Is that? Do I have this name right?
Yeah.
I may have this name wrong. Puani. Puani.
Puani. Okay, I'll look up.
She has 2 rows of teeth. She has red hair.
Oh, Puapi.
And her skeleton is like 7 feet tall or something like that? Her remains are unusually tall.
This is part of it. Yeah, she was part of the. I think she died. Princess Pawabi, yeah. She was.
Yeah, they thought she was
queen.
either a hybrid or Anunnaki, correct? But no one's ever done DNA analysis of her remains.
Right.
And she has 2 rows of teeth, right? She has an unusually large skull. Her bone structure says she was something like 7 feet tall. And that was the thing about the Anunnaki. They said they had double rows of teeth. Did they not?
Right. That's the story, although we don't really have a skeleton. We have people like Pawabi. She was discovered. She was important. I've heard of Pawabi. She was an important person in the Sumerian city of Ur. And they did her tomb in 1920 by Leonard Woolley, who was an archaeologist. He discovered her in 22 and 34. And so she's in the University of Pennsylvania Museum, or it was sponsored by that. Where do they have her? And so her she had been untouched. Her grave was untouched. Okay, well, they did a CAT scan.
But they didn't do a DNA analysis. They've never done
blood force trauma. No.
Yeah, they never did a DNA analysis of her body.
Oh, she's in the Natural History Museum in London. So maybe it was in
That's what it was in London. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it was Pawabi. So she's supposed to be at least half Anunnaki, but yeah.
And didn't Stitchin want, he was trying to get her DNA analyzed.
So that was the one. I had the name mixed up.
Right.
It was Pawabi.
It was Pawabi. Okay, that's what I thought.
Come in and back me up here. Yeah. So, listen to this. Woolley's expedition was divided among the British Museum in London and the National Museum in Baghdad.
Oh, wow.
And they were looted, Baghdad were looted in the Second Gulf War in 2030. So, yeah. Anyway, well, that's an interesting aside. Yeah. I want to go back to our emails, see if I can get back to those.
Okay, let's see. So, one of the things that they're worried about, a side effect of COVID, is it could create Parkinson's disease in people because of all the inflammation.
Tell me more about that. Oh, because the inflammation.
The inflammation. Yeah. So they're not sure.
To just things for there's research saying that inflammation is is at the root of all disease. Inflammation.
Yeah.
If you start working on natural ways of reducing inflammation in your body, and I'm not a doctor, but I've been looking at turmeric. I was just like researching it, turmeric and stuff like that. Somehow getting inflammation down. So that's one of those natural.
Yeah, because it messes with your immune system.
Right.
So what they think is because of the neurological damage that's caused by COVID, and with the inflammation, it can cause degenerative diseases such as Parkinson, based on the immune response to the virus. So they're waiting to see if that happens. So after the Spanish flu, right, there was a lot of brain inflammation, encephalitis, that was a side effect of the flu, and the occurrence of Parkinson's in patients that had been affected by the Spanish flu increased 2 to 3 times after the flu had passed in the overall population that had been affected. And so they're concerned it may happen again with COVID.
Wow.
And what did it, in that one article, what did we find? What was it? 30% of the people that were infected had brain damage, even after the disease had passed, right?
They have brain damage. They feel sick. They're tired. They're lethargic. They have, they just have trouble thinking straight. So some of them, they're called long haulers, right? Some people seem to get through it. But I think there's a lot of people that are having long-term effects, and they just don't know what hit them. I don't know if we're ever going to know how many people got this, but it, might eventually get to the whole population. They say that everybody has herpes. People go, I have cold sores, right? Well, that's herpes, right? Herpes simplex 1 or 2, so they categorize it.
Right, but isn't there like 27 different types of herpes virus out there or something that we can catch?
There's the future of COVID.
Absolutely.
27 varieties. This is where it goes. We've been in the population for a long time. And what do these diseases do over time? How many people? So everybody has pre-existing. I guess you're going to say that. You might catch something in your kids. We call it simply the flu. I had 2 friends die of COVID, and I said, what happened? Well, they had other flus before, so by the time they caught this one, they were weak. So they died. So how many times do we have flus go through and we go, oh, it's just the flu. But it's not just the flu. What is it doing to your body? And when will it be the time that it goes around that it kills you? So maybe we need to have someone look at all these diseases that are going around, Apparently, the Anunnaki had a biochemical war. I have to look up the history of that. They called it Pandora's box, but they were using it because there were too many humans, and the humans were being used as pawns in their war game. And so in order to defeat the gods were divided, and they were, fighting over parts of the earth. Some things never change, right? Even though that was thousands of years ago. And so they started to target the pawns to take them out because they could kill the pawns, then they could, defeat the gods could defeat the god they were fighting against. So they unleashed biochemical warfare. Now the gods were immune, so they don't have a compromised immune system like humanity does. So the gods were surviving, but we were, and it hasn't been retracted. These things are out there, and they've been mutating for thousands of years. So I think we discussed this before, but we're going into the Arctic, the ice is melting, we're burning down forests, and all these things that are happening over the planet are unleashing viruses that have been dormant under the soil, under the ice. So that's huge. Okay, now I found my emails. We had several more emails. Couldn't get back into the website. What's up, Puabi?
Here.
We got her.
Okay.
Okay, what else we... I want to look at the Spanish flu. I remember reading that some of the people that died of Spanish flu were of the generation that, like 20 years before, they had another disease. So that was cumulative too, to a degree. It affected children. Let me pull it up right now. I guess he studied this and become an expert on all these plagues. Because we had plagues in, the 1600s. They had all these plagues that would come around. Okay. So 500 million people of the planet's population got infected, and 20 million to 50 million died, and we lost 675,000 Americans. But the population back in 1918 was only about 3 billion. So we have to somehow translate this. So we're supposed to have close to 400,000 Americans dead by the end of 2020. Close to that. So same thing. There were no effective vaccines or drugs. And they said to the citizens, wear masks. They closed schools, theaters, and businesses. And bodies were piled up in makeshift morgues. Okay. And they knew that if you touch something and then touch your mouth, eyes, or nose, they could become infected. Now, this isn't the article I had before. So then they had the first wave in the spring of 1918, and they have a second, more highly contagious wave came in the fall. So we are officially in the fall, September.
Yeah, but we're still getting through our first wave. Europe's getting hit by its second wave. And China didn't get hit by a second wave, at least not yet.
Oh, they haven't?
No, their protocols, though, are much stricter. As soon as they have a breakout, they clamp down on the region or the community where it is.
So the flu struck down previously healthy young people, a group normally resistant to this type of infectious illness. But we had the World War I, and 36% of the army became ill because they moved around the world in crowded ships and trains, which helped to spread the killer virus. So we don't have a war, but we have a society that travels. We're traveling now like we never traveled before. We get on planes. You ever see the graph that shows the number of planes that were flying on a given day around the world? It's just like little flies shooting off everywhere. Little flies fly everywhere. Yeah, so anyway, the first licensed flu vaccine appeared in America in the 1940s, so it wasn't until 22 years later, they finally had a flu vaccine. So I don't know why they think flus are so effective. Maybe they're not. I mean, why they think vaccines are so effective. What vaccines are?
The flu vaccine isn't that effective.
Yeah, it's not. That's what an article said. You know, you're saying we're all going to get the vaccine. It's not that effective. So
I don't understand.
I think we have to wear our masks with the big, like a helmet. I saw one today. You're just
bound and determined to get people to wear the helmet.
Not the mask. Mask isn't going to work now. Get the helmet. You have your own oxygen supply. It's all filtered. And then you have to mask up against your face. You can see your face clearly. You can walk up to people and say, hey, I'm in my own. Well, if you think about it, maybe they'll make an energy shield. We'll be in our own energy shield. If you think about it, the air that we breathe goes around and around and around. We're breathing the same air that people who have been dead 100 years ago breathe, right?
Well, the CDC posted that the virus is airborne, and then they took it down a few hours later.
Yeah.
And scientists say the virus is airborne. It's not just in droplets. It's not just about touching something. You can breathe it.
How do we get everything else? It's all airborne. So maybe that's the problem. It's our air.
It's airborne.
But,
I stopped driving around the street with my windows open because of it.
Oh. So you think the air in your car is better?
Yes, because it has filters. A lot of cars have HEPA filters now. Yes. Right?
Okay.
And I used to drive around with my windows down. And I don't do that anymore. Now that it's summer and everyone's got their windows down, I won't do that anymore.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was thinking, because I have these workers are here, and I've got to go talk to them here. So I've been social distancing, and I'm trying to position myself so the air is flowing towards them. And I'm treating them as they all have cooties, because they do. These people are out there, and they don't believe in masks. I've never seen any of them wear a mask. They're not walking down the street, but they're coming to my property to work here, and they don't have a mask on. And I go, oh, geez. So I keep the air flowing, hoping. Well, see, we have really strong breezes. I don't think it can stay long enough for you to really get enough to. I don't know. Who knows? We might all be gone this time next year. We do the best we can, but yeah. But see, when I read, I think it was iRobot in 1962 or something, or 63. Here, I'll find out when was iRobot by Isaac Asimov. Nobody was in person with anybody at that point, right? And it was
What's
written
that?
in 1950 in iRobot. From what I remember, in the book, people didn't interact with anybody, with each other anymore. And I'm going, what happened that they don't meet in person anymore? And that wasn't included. And I'm looking at this virus and go, oh, there's our future. We're going to get so paranoid about interacting with other people. We will all be in our own homes and not, socializing anymore. So, I know it sounds like a joke, but I'm seriously going to look into something like that. Because I don't want to be stuck here forever. I'd like to be able to travel. So if it really works, that I can learn. Because my friends came over and they said, we were like 5 hours in a plane with this mask on. It was like suffocating. I was like, yeah, I can see that, yeah. And people have to go to work all day. There's no real air flowing in there. So they need to have something where the air can get in, but it's filtered so you can, because it gets too hot, especially if you're working. Like, I used to clean houses, and it was just hot. That's when you're in the tropics trying to clean and work hard. Heavy labor, right? So, I know, that sounds weird, but I don't know. People would say, you're fear-based. This might be the next reality. Just have diseases. And unless they can go down to the core of us biochemically and see why are we susceptible. See, if the other researchers look at our DNA, what makes one person more receptive to touching and manifesting? And that's where the twin research came in. So what did the twin thing say?
So that article was about interferon, right, which is a biochemical response in the body to help your immune system fight off viral attacks. Now, they use synthetic forms of interferon, like to help cure hepatitis, right? That's part of what's in the drugs that cure hepatitis now. So what they found were, the way they discovered this is that there was different sets of twins in different countries. And the twins are considered, when they're identical twins, what are they, like 99%? Their DNA is 99% identical or something like that?
Yeah.
Anyways, right? So they'll react to...
I would think wouldn't they be 100% identical?
100%? Is the DNA 100%?
Egg.
I thought...
Because one egg is split in two, so yeah.
Right. So it should be 100%. So, right, they often use twins, right, to study things. Knowing you have two sets of people, right, you can subject them to the same circumstances. Do they react the same or not react the same?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they discovered. They had these two sets of twins, each in a different country. They got exposed to the virus under the same circumstances at the same time, but they reacted differently. And when they went back in and looked at the biochemistry, what they found was a difference in interferon levels in the body. So, but again, they were looked at after the virus attack them. So were the interferon levels, what were they before they were exposed to the virus and what were they after the virus? I don't know, right? They don't have all these details, but you have these doctors that notice this, and, you know, doctors are out there now comparing notes with each other. Since the world's response to this is not centralized, the doctors are trying to work together. And they've got a lot of forums with information posted. As different doctors are discovering things, they're putting this out there. So that's how they found the interferon response. Well, there's a lot of drugs out there now that deal with interferon, right? So there's a possibility there's existing drugs out there that if this is part of it, that there may be something already on the market that can assist the human body to fight this thing off or minimize the symptoms to the problem to the point where, like, it's a cold, right? You're not going to die from it. You're just going to get, you know, sick and have some mild symptoms, and it's something that you can manage. So that's what they discovered just recently. I think that one was just this week that, you know, doctors posting the information and sharing it is what they came up with. So I thought that was interesting. That was a great positive about this, right? That they're now discovering things. There's some good news starting to come out about this virus that's going to give us some hope. Because I don't think anybody has faith in a vaccine. I don't. I don't know if you do, but I don't trust governments based on what they're doing, especially ours.
I've never liked vaccines. I didn't like getting them when I was a kid. I remember getting the shot going to kindergarten, and that thing got infected. I had trouble with that. I remember we were lined up with sugar cubes when I was young, and that was for polio. And I don't understand how delivering a cube with the vaccine would last the rest of your life. And wouldn't your digestive fluids destroy? I don't know. I don't understand the science behind it. That's for sure.
So get this. Trump announced that he has the power to approve the vaccine, not the FDA.
Well, he has the power.
Can you believe that?
Because he has the power. He's Trump. He's God. He has the power. He's Jesus. He's got the power. He's got the power.
I wouldn't take that vaccine. I don't care who developed it. They haven't tested it long enough, and anybody that takes it. And I actually have a friend who's a psychic who's very, very talented, and she's been warning us for 4 months not to take that vaccine. She said there's going to be something wrong with it, and it's going to kill people.
Yeah, I think Trump should line up first.
Yeah, that's what I keep hoping, right? That he'll get the virus and eat shit and die.
They were taking it. I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, that Russia had the vaccine, and and Putin's daughter, wasn't his favorite daughter, but one of his daughters lined up and took it, and then she died. That's what I heard. But then they
really?
I haven't heard that. Things. Well, I get things that flash into my inbox. I can prove nothing. I just had it, and I went, what? I don't know what. Everything's fake news. Everything's real news. I have no idea. I just read things, and I kind of file that in the question mark file. I could probably research again, but there's not enough hours in the day to keep up with all this information that's flying at us and everywhere you look. Things pop up in my. If I had my phones on, I would have 30 pop-ups in the course of a show with information and news. So this article said, this is from the Daily Cause, September 23rd. This is yesterday. Trump says blacks have themselves to blame for inequality, and Jews are only in it for themselves. So he had this,
that was from private conversations, not things he said publicly, but things he said privately. He's a straight racist.
Yeah.
He doesn't like
Black
anybody.
Americans, indeed, all Americans should have won respect. Be thankful to him. He has held up a mirror to American society, and it has reflected back a grotesque image that many people until now have refused to see. An image not just of the racism so coursing through this country, but also on the reflex to deny that reality. Though it was hardly his intention, no president has caused more Americans to stop denying the existence of racism than Donald Trump.
Lives in a bubble. What does he know? And his company was brought up on charges for racist housing policies. So he needs to stop.
Yeah.
White people know very little about
racism. Platform. He said on his, I guess we're not, he's running on a race. This is, Trump isn't the first racist president we've ever had. He is, however, the first incumbent president in living memory who has explicitly made racism the corner of not only his tenure in office, but his re-election campaign as well. So he stood up, and I saw this, and he said, "Oh my, don't we all have good genes?" It's like, wow, what an ass. You are such a racist ass.
The arrogance of white people.
The arrogance of, I'm a white person. I'm not good. I thought
I gotta tell you,
they're boring because it was just black and white. So I came to Hawaii so I could have all this diversity. I love diversity. But what were you going to tell me? Go ahead. I may be weird.
I forgot.
I love diversity.
I had a brain fart. I forgot.
Oh, I'll tell you what. What are you going to tell me? Come on, you're going to tell me what? What are you going to tell me? I apologize.
White people know very little about racism, right? Unless you have moved through other cultures and seen things through the eyes of others, you can't speak on racism. You have no idea what it is or if it exists because you don't ever experience it. So how can you judge it?
Well, when I came to Hawaii, I was in an mostly Asian culture. So, and I was just taken aback sometimes. I go, oh, they're racist against me because I'm white. And there was reverse racism too. Sometimes I'd walk in a room and I was the only white person, and they would all say, "Oh, come over here, come over here, little cute white girl, come over here. We want to be your friend." And then there was sometimes like one girl said, "You're so disgusting." I said, "Why?" I'm just, I was working. I was in the job. Because you're so pretty, and we all look alike. I think you're gorgeous. And it was like this weird thing I had to deal with for my first 5 years in the islands. And so then I noticed when I came over here, for a while my hair was getting gray, so I was dyeing it blonde. And then one day I just got tired of the same color, so I picked up a dark, almost brown. And as soon as I dyed my hair a darker color, they would, at the stores, the native makes of Asian Polynesian clerks would smile more, and then they say, "Well, thank you, Auntie." So they accept you. They call you Auntie.
Right.
You're not related. Everybody's Auntie. And I started getting more aunties. So then I started to, darken my hair, so I get more respect for them. Even though my skin's white, my eyes are blue, and I have darker hair, they think I might be mixed. I don't know what they're thinking. I guess I'm mixing that up, but I'm getting more aunties. I'm getting more accepted. So I said, I'm going to just have darker hair because I get more accepted. Yeah, so. But it's very interesting when you experience racism, when you don't feel threatened. But if you have racism, like, I just don't know what's going on with America anymore, where they can go into somebody's house and just shoot them dead in their own bedroom, in their own bed. It's like, oh my God, it's just
and they got off scot-free.
And they got away.
Qualified immunity for police. You don't need to defund the police, but we need to remove the qualified immunity protection. Police know they can kill someone and nothing's going to happen to them. And we need to take the safety of that away from them so that they start taking a different approach to how they handle the community.
Yeah. something's got to give because this isn't. It's not kind. It's not loving. It's not fair. It's out of whack. And it all started with Trump. And Trump started this. If you watch the cast, or no, not the cast of charity, you watch Active Measures. He began this campaign back in the 80s. So this birthism, that was his first. Well, I guess he started with those kids in the Central Park. He labeled them guilty, and it took a long time for that.
Those kids were innocent. They went to prison for years for that, and they were innocent.
Trump's starting a strategy of racism. Very dangerous psychopath.
Anybody that deals in all these conspiracy theories and all this propaganda and disinformation, they're dangerous. But I find a lot of these people just aren't very intelligent. They're just gullible, and he is. He's gullible. He's not a very smart man. Like, you listen to him talk, and
I
you
think
just sit there.
There's some kind of genius behind that, because I think Melania and Trump, from what's coming out about Melania's best friend writing her tell-all, all the tell-all books, they know
She's
exactly
just like
what
him.
they're doing. They're two sides of the same coin. Okay, here's something from. We are psychologists, and we are convinced Donald Trump is a psychopath. It said, of course, this year's presidential election isn't so much a horse race as a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome death match to determine whether we devolve further into an apocalyptic hellscape or manage to claw back some simulacrum of normal. Okay. Except we have to
There's
call
no
a
genius
spade a
behind
spade.
what he's doing. Trump is not a genius. Trump is an idiot. You ever listen to
Get
him
rid
talk?
Of the ballot.
He can't even finish a sentence. Did you see him where he's talking about herd mentality instead of herd immunity when he was sitting there doing his town hall? I'm like, you are really stupid. You're like a child that repeats what he hears and doesn't repeat it correctly. Like, you're just an idiot.
He's a brilliant idiot. He's exactly what he wants.
He is not brilliant. He is not brilliant. I'm sorry, he's not. He's a bumbling idiot.
So let me read this. Get rid of the ballots, and there won't be a transfer, said Donald Trump on Wednesday. This comment is a direct and dangerous expression of his anti-democratic intention. If unstopped, Trump may well destroy our 244-year-old democracy. It's time to stop pulling punches. It's time to stop relying on political pundits to weigh in on Trump's behavior, which they often soften and normalize. So too many people are normalizing this behavior, but this ain't normal. So he breaks norms, rules, and laws with impunity. He lies on the average 15 times a day. He peddles fake conspiracy theories and irrational magic thinking. He has been accused of sexual predatory behavior by at least 25 women. He blames scapegoats and gaslights as easily as he breathes. He undermines the vital role of the free press because he abhors oversight and accountability. He lies and anti-scientific advice and intentional downplaying of the coronavirus pandemic has led to countless American deaths. I think he intentionally downplayed it. I think that most of the people who died, because we were there early on and we said there's only one person that died, and that's when I locked down. There was those boats were going around and people were dying offshore. So they weren't counting as American deaths, but we had people dying in those boats, big, large cruise ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was like 3 or 4 of them stranded. And it's like, lock this down, because the cruise ships have been around the world. And then I said, it's in America. It came out later that it's been in the United States. And I've heard reports that it's been here as early as November, but there's some cases in December. So I think it's just that we have a global world, and maybe it started in China. We don't know. We'll never figure out where it started. But I read that they're going to be able to test and determine, because the virus picks up your DNA. So they can find ground zero. They can find what did they call that? The woman that passed around she had a name in past generations. Anyway, they can find the woman or the person that has intentionally not worn a mask and went around and spread it. The ground zero patients that are responsible for. And so probably if this continues for years, this will be like a crime. You know, you're intentionally spreading a virus that kills people, and you'll be held accountable. It won't just be unintentional, it'll be the intentional spreading of disease, just like they did with AIDS.
HIV.
They found that guy that gave hundreds of people AIDS and knew he had it, and went around and had sex. Lots of people died.
That dentist that had it, right, and treated all those people, and they all got it.
So they're going to be able to track you down and put your ass in jail or something if you are intentionally spreading this. So these people that are saying, I don't believe in viruses that can kill people, but come on, you know, that's so. And if they don't get you in life, you're going to get it when you die, because this is karma. You know, you can't. There's no bypassing eventual karma, whether it catches you in your current life or down the line. So this is not a normal election. This is a fight for the future of our democracy. Something we've always taken for granted, even in our darkest hours. I know Joe Biden never asked for this, but it's up to him to save the republic, even as Trump continues to cross the Rubens he cons. And so, anyway, we've got to do something about it. This is sad. I don't know how this is going to play it out. And I see all these people rejoicing because like they want people to die, they want people to suffer. I hear it out of friends, I hear it out of relatives. They blame the victim, they shame the victim, pass the buck, and constantly demonize. And it's like, where is the humanity in all that? Where is the compassion? Why do you blame the victim? Well, they were old anyway. They had free existence. I've never heard such cruel things ever. This is not the world I grew up in. You know, we had
Trump
just gone through World War II. But we weren't mean like this. But go ahead, Trump, what?
Did you hear that that aide that was on the task force that resigned in June? She said that Trump said one of the upsides to the virus was he didn't have to shake the hands of all these disgusting people. Right? That's what he thinks of his supporters.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what he thinks of his supporters. He thinks they're disgusting people.
Right. So how is it that, I mean, I heard Trump has germophobia. That's why, that was behind that statement, he has germophobia. So
people aren't allowed to cough or sneeze in his presence.
So somehow that must be playing into how he doesn't get this. That he must not believe that it's airborne, because he just walks out in crowds with no mask on.
He doesn't go near the people,
sure.
though. He doesn't go near the people.
And he's kind of distant from them.
Yeah, he never lets them get close to him. He doesn't shake people's hands or go greet them. He stands on a podium way far away from them. Yeah, I'm so glad. I hope he dies to teach him a lesson. Michael Caputo, who was the spokesperson for, was it the National Institute of Health, right, that Fauci runs? Is that it?
Right.
Right? He has metastatic brain and throat cancer.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to die.
Right.
I personally think it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. That's what he gets for being such an evil piece of shit.
Yeah, so that's happening because evil is unsustainable. It kind of burns out. You know, longevity and evil Although we heard that Hitler escaped to Venezuela, I think. And he lived out his days in his 90s or something. So I think that's what, Trump has, an escape plan. Doesn't matter.
I told you, he's going to be on the first plane to Russia. If he loses this election, he'll be on the first plane to Russia because that man and his family are going to jail for all the crimes they committed.
Right.
And New York is about to go after them. Did you see that judge ordered his son to give a deposition? They're now going after the Trump organization for financial fraud. And the son said he'd submit to the subpoena for the deposition after the election, and the judge told him, nope, you got to do it before October 7th.
Oh, well, he'll do something. Something will happen.
So, all their...
And then the niece says... Yeah, go ahead. The niece,
The niece
Mary.
sued them for fraud today.
Oh.
She sued them. She filed a lawsuit for financial fraud, that they cheated her out of her inheritance with fraudulent financial statements. So now she's going after them for millions of dollars.
Good for her. She lost all that. They were so mean to her dad. He didn't come to the hospital. I think he checked himself in or something, and he died. Like, what kind of family is that? You don't even, rally around someone that's dying. Your brother, your son, it's like, wow. Okay, here's an article that says that, do not despair. This is the last gasp of the Republican Party fighting against its inevitable death. Wow, this one sounds like good news.
We can only hope, right?
We can only hope.
What I find hilarious is they claim they're Christians and they're God-fearing people, and their entire political platform is a violation of all the tenets in the Bible.
There's nothing Christian about the behavior, no.
No,
Jesus
not
is
at all.
starting in his grave, and was never grave. They're so Christian about that, yeah. But somehow this all goes back to Reagan. So the family that was on Netflix, which talked about the Breakfast Club and the movement. Did you ever see this? I mean, the Breakfast Prayer Group. Did you ever see that series? It was like a 5-part series. You must look it up. It's on Netflix. And
what's it called?
It's called The Family, and it's about the Breakfast Prayer Group. It started back in the Eisenhower was the first one. And this guy said, let's do a breakfast prayer group. And I forget the guy's name, but I haven't watched this in over a year, but I'll have to go back and get it. But Eisenhower said, no, we're supposed to make separation of church and state. And this guy said, no, let's do this. So anyway, he got talked into it, and they had this breakfast prayer group where people come from all over the world. And there was an insider that went it was kind of like a cult religion. So he got pulled in as a young man to study with them. And all the men lived together, a big mansion, and down the street, all the women lived together in a big band. And it was like, all they did was talk about Jesus. And they said, well, you really don't need the whole Bible. You just need this tiny book. And it had Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they said, whatever you can't figure out, just pray to Jesus. So it just became like this cult where everything was about Jesus. But their agenda was abortion, to eliminate abortion rights, and to stir up homophobia around the planet. And so it's absolutely brilliant because they sent out missionaries, they were politicians, and they would get backed by this funding to go and proselytize, and somehow they kept using this strategy which kept it growing and accelerating. And that's why we have the religious right in control of the White House right now. And that's why you have that picture when Trump got inaugurated. They all stood around him, they put their hands on him, right? And they prayed. I'll have to get that picture somewhere. I have it on my website. And so they forgive Trump for all of his, because he's a modern day, prophet, he's a Messiah, and he's a human being, so he's not perfect. So they always forgive him for his, for the grab him by the pussy and stuff, because he is their chosen one to bring about this agenda, which basically is uniting the whole world under Jesus. And we're not talking about the guy who climbed up the cross. We're talking about a term which unites the whole world. They even get Muslims, we're just going to pray for Jesus. And the symbol of anti-abortion and family values, which does not include same-sex marriages or gay people. So that is the common thread. You can get there's a country in Africa, Nigeria or something, and they're just killing gays. A lot of countries are just killing gays, and a lot of homophobia is still going. And they kill women who have abortions. So there's excuses because it's our religious belief, right? So some of the extreme countries are doing extreme punishment, of course. But now it's coming over here. It's like Handmaid's Tale. So they're going to have this 6 to 3. What do we call it? The courts, the Supreme Court, 6 to 3. And so they're going to take away Roe v. Wade, and they're going to start criminalizing a woman's control of the body. When I was a little girl, I saw a book with Natalie Wood, and she had a backstreet abortion. It was called Love with a Proper Stranger. And how did she ended up doing it? And the guy ended up marrying her. It was all the tearjerker, but there have been other people that have done abortions, and they take a hanger or something. And it was just unsanitary, desperate people who didn't want to have another baby or didn't want to have a baby or all these circumstances, because they always blame the victim. They always blame the woman. But it's kind of like my brother, he's a pro-life, and it's not very pro-life because I don't care what the fetus is born. They're not concerned about who raises these kids, what kind of home life are they in. There's no real family values in that. Just producing children because some person got pregnant. And the born-againers would say, or the evangelists would say, well, that woman got raped because God wanted that child to come to the world. So even that is like, everything gets rationalized and justified when it's called by God. But who is God, right? Who's God? And so, who is Jesus? Who are these people that were doing these atrocities in the name of? So anyway, it's an interesting series, and if you watch that, we can do some shows about that. But that's when they took over Reagan. Just after Reagan started this trickle-down economy and this breakfast prayer where he really took it to the next level. And he started, with evangelists, aligning with the evangelists. And who was it back then? Billy Graham. Let's have an evangelist as your prayer person. There's no separation of church and state when everything started with a prayer, because that's Christian. So, my brother said, well, the United States is a Christian country. It's not supposed to be a Christian country. The theory is that we embrace all these diversity in religions, but it's only embraced.
It's actually not a Christian country.
White Christian.
And less than 40% of the population identifies as Christian. But
they rule. They dominate. And now their values are going to take over, so we're going to be a Christian country according
Christianity is the biggest lie that's been perpetuated on the human race. It is a freaking
Trump's
joke.
not a Christian.
No, he's not.
Trump's saying
He doesn't even go to church.
It's just
He just
convenient.
uses the Bible and the church as props to, like, do horrific things to people.
There you go. So, this article says, the dying system, which they're saying the Republican Party is a dying system, would push back in a desperate last gasp that would ultimately accelerate its death. So the 2016 GOP primary and election appears to confirm this prediction. This is the election of the most racist, power-hungry, fascist president in modern history. And the author is saying this was, in his opinion, his or her opinion, who is it? I don't know who it is. Daisies are pretty. The last gasp, the dying party. And who pushed him over at the top with an electoral win? Desperate white people who fear they are becoming a demographic minority in this country. For the last decade or more,
they are.
Talking heads have been delivering this message loud and clear. They, non-white people, are going to outnumber us soon. And unfortunately for them, it is true, as evidenced by demographic trends highlighted at the end of this piece. For now, let's just look at the similarities between the life cycle, death cycle of businesses and industry and compared to the GOP. Anyway, there's this wonderful article, like too long to go over, but apparently it outlines how the Republican Party is dying. But I haven't read this, but I would say that it is dead now. The Trump Party, this doesn't resemble anything like the Republican Party in my childhood. So, stay calm and resolute and wear your mask. Yes, the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is devastating. Who not only lost her original lying in the Supreme Court, tragedy in itself, but mourning her passing is polluted by this fact. The abomination known as Trump, he replaced her with one of his far-right minions. Then when I look at the big picture and the factors I've outlined above, I see the inevitable death of the GOP in this election cycle. Trump will not get a second term, and he will take the Republican Party down with him. Stay strong. I'll have to read this at great length later. It's part of the daily cause stories, and I've got the link. I can put the link up. I don't have it on my site at aquariumradio.com. All right. What else? We've got like less than 15.
Well, the hotline, the Suicide Congress passed a law for the suicide prevention hotline, the 988 number. I thought that was a great thing this week.
So how's that going to work? You're feeling suicidal and you go...
You call 911 for help, you call 988, right? It'll be a national hotline. Yes, and it's supposed to be implemented by the end of 2021 or 2022. Trying to find my little article here.
Well, that sounds promising.
I thought that was a great thing, right? Because we've got a mental health crisis. Well, we had a mental health crisis in this country before the virus, and now it's been exasperated. And not only has it been exasperated, as difficult as it was to get treatment before, it's become even more difficult now to get treatment. You know, you have your health, so much health care has been eliminated. If they overturn Obamacare, which is highly possible, if they appoint a conservative justice on the Supreme Court.
Where are these people?
Right?
I don't understand why people would vote against their interests. Where are these people going to get health insurance if that gets overturned? Where are they going to go?
Yeah, there's no jobs, right? So without work, and what happened? The whole point of Obamacare was our medical system was being bombarded. You had hospitals failing all around the country due to unpaid medical bills, right? By being forced to treat people, right? And that was the point of Obamacare. Everybody had to have skin in the game. Everybody had to pay for part of this so that more people could get care, so that these hospitals weren't saddled with all these bills that were left unpaid. You've had how many rural hospitals close up because of debt, right? They can't service the debt. They don't get enough business to be highly profitable. You know, rural hospitals should be run by nonprofits, right? So it's about serving the community. It's not about making money. You know, I remember when my daughter was a kid, when I was in between jobs, there used to be community health clinics you could go to. So at least there was like a minimum level of care, and you didn't have to pay very much money, right? They were often, you know, based on your ability to pay. Those don't even exist anymore, right? If you don't have medical insurance, other than the emergency room, if you don't have money, other than the emergency room, there's no place for you to go to get care. Somebody has to pay that bill. Right?
That's
so
why
if the person
I'm
got
for
the
Medicare
treatment,
for all. I'm for basic minimum income. I'm for getting people off.
I know.
We have box buildings and malls that are empty. Let's put people in them, and they can make jobs by remodeling them so they can house people. Get people off. You want to cure homelessness? Get people off the streets. You want to cure starvation? Start feeding people. I think we need to tax the rich. The answer is, I was reading an article that back in the 60s, the rich were taxed up to 70%. I'm sure they had formula, but they were paying far more taxes than they are now, and things
they don't
were
pay
more
anything
balanced.
now.
They don't pay anything now. So I think we just go back to the system where the rich pay their fair share. And all that money goes into a fund to, help people have their basic needs met. People are going to want to work. They're not going to want to sit around all day. They're not going to want to just settle for living in a studio apartment or something. They're going to want to have a home, and they're going to want to up level. They're going to want to have a big screen TV and an iPhone and a computer. But meeting someone's basic mineral needs, so they're not living on the street and they can't even get a shower. They have no money to eat. That's barbaric. The aliens are looking down at us and going, this is a very primitive world that doesn't even take care of the basic needs of its citizens. It's absurd. They talk to us.
As bad as we think it is, think about how it was 100 or 200 years ago. I always tell my daughter that when she complains, right, about how bad our society is. Our society was not near as bad as it was just 200 years ago. 200 years ago, there was no social safety net. You didn't have money, you starved. Even in the 30s, right, when the Depression hit. You didn't have money, you starved.
That was like a real low. Up until then, we used to have societies, even in like the 50s, where Grandma and Grandpa lived with. It was like multi-generational houses.
Yeah.
So they tended to take care of it was more like tribes, and so the large cities would have the Russian community and the Jewish community. It could be Russian Jewish, the Italian. We have a Polish Hill in Pittsburgh where I was raised, and the Italians, and then they'd have the other immigrants would come and get. So every immigrant. So I'm not sure how it goes back a lot of time, but we used to live more off the land. You could perhaps subsidize your food by hunting or fishing, or it was different. It was different back then. But there's always been poverty, but not to the level where you have all these people living on the streets and they live in these camps because they've had to run from wars. I guess we've always had that. I don't know. I don't know the history of the world. All I have is the filtered down version that's coming to my reality through media and school. And so I'm not an expert. I'm not anybody. I don't think we really know. But all we know is now. So within my lifetime, which spans 66 years, and my husband's lifespan, which is 80 years, I have his stories and how the atrocities of World War II, and his family thought that they were going to get destroyed by Hitler, who was sending Jews to the ovens. They had some awareness of what they were doing, and a lot of it emerged after the people were set free. But there was awareness of the husband family. They were collecting money to get like Aunt Sophie and all these relatives out of Europe. And so they were welcoming them in the United States, and they were all taking in different people. And they didn't bring them over here to put them on the street. They brought them over here, and they took care of their people. And then they would get another one. They kept every Sunday when they, or the Saturday when they went to their temple, like they had a collection and they determined who's coming out next, and they rotated. And then my husband said that they had gardens. So he lived in North California, and everybody had gardens in their backyards or side yards. My mother has stories of the gardens. They had gardens. And I think that's why she didn't plant gardens when we got out of that, because she was traumatized. But Tasha said that one neighbor, they raised pigs, and his family raised chickens, and so people would have different specialties, and they would trade with each other.
Right.
So you could specialize. And then, of course, you had coupons. You could only buy so much of things. You had to subsidize your food in World War II, or you would basically not have a very balanced diet. So everybody was growing food, even if it was just pots on your fork, you grew something. So, but, I didn't live through that. I have friends who lived through it as children, and all the adults are pretty much dead now. That whole generation is leaving the planet, and now the baby boomers are starting to exit in that. So, and then you're a millennial, and then you have the next one, and the next one. So we're passing the torch, and we passed the story, and who knows how much it's real or fake. But all I know right now is I don't want Trump to get in because he represents so many horrendous things that are assault in reality, like his, all the. I mean, any one thing would take him out. I mean, we were getting upset that Bill Clinton had a consensual, blowjob, and here's this guy that grabs him by the pussy, and there's the woman.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Store,
they
and
crucified that man.
I know, and
look at what they're letting Trump get away with.
He took me in the dressing room, and he screwed me, and then he ripped up his pants and there's a 14-year-old, and no, he didn't just Google me. He had sex with me, and I was 14 years old, and I was like, why is he still, even for that, why is he still, and then the racist thing. I don't understand when this man makes these racist comments, and then people of the race that he's making these negative comments about, those who vote for. It's like people are voting against their best interests. Why? Why are they keeping this? I certainly hope he loses. I certainly hope he loses. I'm holding that. Somebody's got to make this happen. We need an end to this because our society is drunk out. Okay, I'm going to let you talk. Your turn to talk. We've got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes left?
What would you like to say?
Let's see.
Final comment.
Let me look at final comment. You know what my final comment is. That's going to be my only comment until after the election.
Oh, no.
So
Let's just summarize what we said. Let's summarize, what's your conclusion of all of this that we covered over the last? We did 2 hours. I'm proud of it.
Well, there's some good things coming out of this virus now, some good information, not good things coming from the virus itself, but we're getting better data, right? So there's hope on the horizon that this situation will take a turn for the better. Unfortunately, the deaths are still escalating, right? We're looking at possibly, 300,000 to 400,000 dead before the end of the year.
Right.
You still can't get tested, despite what the government says. Most of the federal testing centers are closed down. Any place you go to get, most people don't have tests or the supplies for it. And then when you find a place that can do it, they want to charge you an arm and a leg. So still take precautions, everyone. Social distance more than 6 feet if you can, yes, now that we know this thing is airborne, despite what the government says. Wear your mask to protect yourself and others. More for others than yourself. You don't know where anybody's been, right?
Well,
minimize your
exposure. Because you don't know if when you took your mask off to scratch your nose, something didn't go up it.
I know, that's so crazy. Can I tell you, usually when I go out, I keep a disinfectant kit in the car, and lately I've kind of gotten lazy and forgotten to disinfect my hands and just wipe my face and wipe everything I've touched because I have bottles of alcohol in the car. And sometimes I forget, and I'm like, oh, my God, I touched my face, and I start to panic. And then I go wipe everything down with alcohol.
I know. I've been having to deal with things with workers at my house, plumbing issues, and it's like it's inevitable. It's like this sucker's gonna get me. It's like shit. I know you can be so careful, but it doesn't. From one person who said, "Well, you're too late. You're infected." I go, "No, it's not too late. I'm right down my guard just because I let somebody close to me that could be infected." Anybody that's out there could be infected. Anybody. We're going to the stores. We're going to, anybody. It's just, we're dealing with a pandemic. But I can't take it like that. But I'm just wondering, what more can be done to protect them. So I look at supplements. I'm doing my own kind of intuitive doctoring of myself and my husband.
Vitamin C, A, and D.
Okay. Yep.
That's vitamin C, A, and D is the supplements you should be taking now for this pandemic. People who have high levels of but people who have high levels of vitamin C, they're finding are either asymptomatic or have minimal symptoms. So there's a connection there somehow in this virus, right?
Right.
So we have 2 minutes left.
Well, I'm going to play the music. I want to say goodbye. Thank you for listening. Much love, blessings,
Go
and
vote,
aloha.
everybody.
Go vote! Yes, but vote blue. Don't go vote. Don't go voting if you're going to vote red. No, just stay at home. It's not worth it. Just go vote blue. Anyway, okay, we're going to go. Bye-bye. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.